I'm James Brierton in Charlotte, North Carolina. We will get back to that brand new episode of the Carolina Weather Group in just a little bit, but right now we have two tornado warnings here in North Carolina that we need to hop on the air with to tell you about. They are in two separate portions along the I-95 corridor, and you can see them scrolling at the bottom of your screen. They are Bertie and Bladen counties in North Carolina. They are the second and third tornado warnings that we have had today, following one earlier today that was also kind of in that greater Wilmington area, if you will. We're going to be getting radar up here on the screen for you. Again, if you are just joining us right now on our social platforms, you may be seeing the title of this stream for the regular scheduled programming that we had on the air, not but just a few moments ago, but we have interrupted that so that we could bring you this tornado warning coverage right now that we are tracking. And I'm going to go ahead and do a little double box here. We're coming live on the air with you, and I want to actually flip-flop what is in which box here for you so we can make the radar nice and big for you. But let's go single panel right now on our radar scope so we can just kind of get the lay of the land. Again, right now, just here in southeastern North Carolina, this is a tornado warning that was issued by the National Weather Service out of Wilmington for southwestern Bladen County in southeastern North Carolina. It goes until 9:30, and the National Weather Service there is monitoring a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. So not one confirmed, but still nonetheless a tornado warning that we need to take seriously. That is located near Abbotsburg, or 10 miles north of Whiteville. It's moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. It'll be in Elkington around 9:15, and we'll keep a close eye on that. Other locations include Clarkton and Dublin. Now, we have a second tornado warning, this one a little bit further to the north here, still to the east of Interstate 95, going for another 19 minutes as well until 9:30 or so. This one out of the National Weather Service in Wakefield, and this is for a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado near Windsor, moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. Again, neither one of these has a confirmed tornado, but we should be still heading towards our tornado safe places. We'll talk about what those are here in just a moment. This one also moving northeast at 15 miles an hour, and this tornadic thunderstorm will remain over mainly rural areas of central Bertie County, including the following locations, including Bona Vista, and we're going to keep a close eye on both of these things right now. We'll have the rest of our Carolina Weather Group panel here just in a few moments, but let me walk you through right now from where I sit at our headquarters in Charlotte, what we're looking at on the screen here. This is in the same location. On the left-hand side of your screen is reflectivity. This is the intensity of rain. You're most familiar seeing this when you're tracking rainfall on a radar, but on the right-hand side, this is called velocity, and this is where we can actually look at the winds in the atmosphere. So, of course, a tornado is something that would be rotating, and although most thunderstorms, strong thunderstorms, have some rotation to them, what the National Weather Service is looking at is this area right on in here where we get this really, it's almost so bright that the green almost turns to white, and then it's up against an area that has a little bit of red in it. I'm going to go ahead and put it in motion for you, and that's the area they're watching. A really strong area of rotation would be red and green really close together because the different colors indicate winds that are moving towards and away the radar, and so obviously with something like a tornado that would kind of be like a cylinder, you would be expecting to see those winds wrapped up really tightly here, and you can kind of see how this, again, moving to the northeast, starts right on in here and continues up this way. And then there are a couple of frames here on radar where I could see exactly why and where they issued the warning for. And then in that very last frame, I'm playing it a little bit faster now, so you can kind of see here it enters. This is right where the warning is issued. You can see kind of where we have those winds starting to wrap up a little bit. And then it almost weakens a little bit. And then in that last frame, we're starting to kind of see, sorry about that, a little bit again where we have this area and this area really close together. And we'll keep a close eye on that. Again, this is from the perspective here of the Wakefield office, which is actually in Virginia, and they're looking kind of south. It's about 65 miles or so from the radar, which puts us at about 5,000 feet up in the atmosphere. Again, that's in a fairly rural area, and that is some good news that the Weather Service is pointing out to us in terms of protected impact from the storm. Now, this one, we're going to actually look at a radar that's much closer. This is now moving towards Elizabethtown, And this area of rotation is also a little bit more obscure on the radar. Let's go ahead and put this into motion. It's also moving to the northeast at 15 miles an hour, and we're going to wait to see exactly what maybe triggered the weather service. I think it's going to be right on in here. Yep. And so you can kind of see, if I just play back these last few frames, right about there, right at the beginning of the polygon, which is in red, you can start to see where we have, again, the greens and the reds close together. And then the Weather Service went ahead and issued this warning, which is, again, it stops just shy of Elizabethtown. It's kind of right between Bladenboro and Clarktown. It's not the clearest of images on the right-hand side of your screen in terms of those winds, but if I can draw your attention to the left-hand side of your screen, you can kind of see we have this little appendage coming off the reflectivity, and that's because the winds would be wrapping on in. So because of the way the winds are set up, the rain and the moisture kind of get wrapped up in it as well too. So sometimes when we can't see it with the velocity track, we'll look at it on the reflectivity track as well too. We're also looking at, there's some lightning being indicated out here ahead of the storm. The lightning itself is not a parameter for a tornado warning. The lightning itself is not a parameter even for a severe thunderstorm warning, but it does let us know that the atmosphere is very charged, and I mean that semi-pun intended, in that this storm has a lot of fuel, a lot of instability, a lot of energy that is kicking off the strength of this system. So lightning is an indicator to us that there's still a lot to play with there in the atmosphere. Now, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this turned on, where I want to show you earlier today. If it will, this system, okay, this particular system is not tracking back far enough, but this is actually the second and third tornado warnings of the day. And we had one earlier that was in this same general area. And it looks like the website we normally use to pull these in has changed a little bit from Iowa State. But just to, I guess, quickly summarize, it was out in the Dublin area earlier where law enforcement saw a tornado on the ground, and the National Weather Service out of Wilmington actually issued a tornado warning with the observed tag. That was earlier today. We didn't get any reports of injuries or property damage with that storm, luckily. But because there were eyeballs on it, we got a storm earlier today, a warning earlier today that had the observed tag on it. Now, neither one of these two warnings, as we go back to single panel right now, has that observed tag on it. But we're going to go ahead and remind you that here for the next 14 minutes, if you're inside these polygons, you want to get to your safe place. So what is that? That's the lowest room, most interior room on a sturdy structure. When you go to that place, you want to make sure you're wearing a helmet. If you have something for your eyes, great. You might not have enough time to grab all of these things, but ideally pants and shoes, so that if you have to come back out into an area that now has some storm debris, whether it be glass or nails, you have some foot protection and so on and so forth. But again, a sturdy structure is ideally one that is not a mobile home or a manufactured home, to be completely straight with you. We're talking about a brick and mortar structure, and you want to get as low down in that structure as possible. So if that's a basement, great. Most people don't have basements in this part of the country, so you may be headed to a closet or an interior bathroom. At my house, it's a coat closet that's actually under the stairs in the center of our house, because again, you want to be center and low. And I'm going to check here. We're going to see when the rest of our panel would like to join us. Shout out to Brian and Anthony, who are watching along with us on YouTube. Good evening to you, and thank you. I see your comments, and I appreciate you guys as well too. And we'll go ahead and we'll keep an eye on this. Now, the weather here over the next few days, we're actually anticipating a larger storm threat tomorrow than we are today. Today, we're in what the Storm Prediction Center just kind of highlights in a light green. You might know this just as general thunderstorm, right? Of course, there's never a day where there's a 0% chance of having severe weather, and we're watching that kind of play out today with 3 tornado-warned thunderstorms already. But tomorrow, most of the Carolinas, short of actually the coastal areas, are in the Storm Prediction Center's marginal dark green tier 1 out of 5. 5 risk. So not the highest of risks, right? But not net zero either. And tomorrow there isn't actually a categorical threat of tornadoes, but we'll be watching for thunderstorms capable of producing damaging winds. About 5% chance of seeing those. That typically means about 60-mile-per-hour winds or greater. Although you asked my wife's plants the other day, 40 miles an hour was enough to do that. Not too much of a threat of a hail tomorrow. So tomorrow, again, we have that marginal risk for a lot of the Carolinas. But again, this is our third tornado warning of the day. This is today's outlook, just general run-of-the-mill thunderstorms with nothing on the tornado outlook for the day. And yet here we are, right? So it's always a good reminder why you want to be kind of prepared for the worst and expect the best, and we'll keep a close eye on those. Anthony on Facebook is pointing out as well as he's keeping an eye on these. We don't really have a ton of great rotation with either one of these storms, and I think that's a fairly good bet to say too, as we're keeping a close eye on these things. We do have a new storm report in that actually speaks to the tornado warning from earlier today. This is the one that at about 5:25 or so earlier today in Columbus County, North Carolina. This is more or less that same area I was talking about with the first tornado warning of the day. National Weather Service is telling us that local news media had shared with them video that showed tornado on the ground with debris in the air. Again, luckily no reports of any damage or injury associated with that particular storm. But that particular storm, if I show you here on radar, that storm report is right on in here in Columbus County. It's not affiliated with the tornado warning we have right now, but it's ironically not all that too far away. So we're looking again here at this tornado warning that goes for another 10 minutes or so for Bladen County, southwestern Bladen County, and Elkerton. Right now, this is going to be pretty close to you. We're looking right now for the Morehead City radar. We can actually get pretty close here with the radar out of Wilmington, or at least the one that's assigned the jurisdiction of Wilmington. Yeah, the radar is definitely fairly messy. We'll briefly go 4 panels where we'll introduce the possibility of hail in the lower left, not seeing a whole lot there, and then even correlation coefficient on the right-hand side, where when a storm is throwing non-meteorological debris, i.e. not rain, so like lumber or trees or things like that up in the air, the radar can actually see those objects, and that's what the one on the bottom right would show us if we had any of that, but not picking up much in the way of that either. But either way, the National Weather Service does still have this tornado warning out, and better safe than sound with them, and we'll continue to advise you to stay in those safe places over the next 10 minutes or so. Excuse me, I don't even have a glass of water with me here because we were in the midst of premiering a new episode to you, and I wasn't even prepared I wasn't expecting to speak, but here we are, and we're speaking with you nonetheless. Let's move back up now to the northern area, the northern tornado warning. Again, this is actually, both of these are fairly small polygons, right? This one's only about, let's call it 8 miles tall, and this one goes until 9:30 as well too. This is the National Weather Service. That is out of Wakefield, Virginia, with jurisdiction here in northeastern Virginia. This is for Bertie County. We're watching this thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado moving near Windsor, moving northeast at 20 miles an hour, so a little bit faster than it was before. And you can see if there was anything, it would kind of be wrapped up pretty well defined inside of this tornado polygon, the red on your screen. But we're watching a little bit of lightning activity again with it, right? So the lightning itself doesn't tell us much about the direct location of a threat other than the atmosphere is still pretty primed. We have a couple thunderstorms out there as well too. Nothing warned or nothing to be too concerned about right now, right? But other areas where you may be experiencing some actual thunderstorms here on this first day of June. We even have another one out here towards Goldsboro. Now, again, these don't have warnings associated with them, but as we get into that summer mindset, it's always good to remind you, if you are close enough to hear thunder, you're close enough to be struck by lightning. There's no such thing as heat lightning, folks. One of the biggest myths out there. There's no such thing as, oh, that's lightning out in the distance. If you can hear that thunder, there's actual lightning out there that can strike 15, 20, maybe 30 miles away from the actual rain core. So you don't want to mess around with that stuff. Again, I wouldn't be surprised here if the National Weather Service goes ahead and discontinues these tornado warnings either prematurely or when they're set to expire at 9:30 or so. And then at that point, we'll make an editorial call once these warnings are off the board on whether or not we're we were in the midst of playing a new episode for you, all about observing, monitoring, and warning about severe flooding events, flash flooding events, primarily in the Charleston area. As you may have figured out, that episode was on tape, but was new. You had not yet seen it before, and we do need to get that back on the air here as soon as we get a chance to finish up. So we'll have that tape ready to go, and we'll probably start that anew once these tornado warnings are off the board. But again, I'm James Brierton in Charlotte, North Carolina. You're watching live severe weather coverage right now, streaming from the Carolina Weather Group on Facebook, on YouTube. You may be watching on our non-stop channel, the Carolina Weather Net, which is available throughout the day on YouTube. So you can always just go on over to the Carolina Weather Group YouTube and find real-time notifications about current conditions and warnings just like this, either alongside live coverage or alongside best of our weekly podcast show. Again, we're going to stay on the air here for the next few minutes, but I don't see anything super strong that would concern me. We do have up National Weather Service Chat, which is a tool that the Weather Service will use to communicate with media and emergency response, and we're not getting much in the way right now in terms of any additional chatter that you all wouldn't otherwise be seeing from the bulletins coming out of these two offices to give you an idea of what exactly is being monitored. More or less, again, we have a couple pockets of rain, heavier rain across eastern North Carolina. This is, by and large, mainly right now along the I-95 corridor. Just come inland a little bit here in South Carolina, a little bit closer to the Columbia metro area, but nothing severe to be concerned about there in South Carolina. You can see sea breeze and all right at this time of day where these storms are kicking up and generating as they're moving to the north and to the east. This arrow itself should probably be almost a little bit more in line with Interstate 95. Where I am in Charlotte, all is fairly calm and quiet right now. We'll be watching for more widespread rain tomorrow across the area, again, with the possibility that a couple of those storms could be strong to severe tomorrow. But right now, it's just these two little tiny tornado warnings that because the National Weather Service still has them on the board, we want to treat them as something serious until we're told otherwise. But again, you can even kind of see it here as we put this back into motion over the course of the last half an hour or so, where we do get a little bit momentarily of an appendage using the reflectivity data on the left. I'm hoping the velocity data will come on in here in a moment when it's finished loading. Let's see if we can re-rack that animation. Now, mind you, we're using Radar Scope. It's a really great product, as I think many of you know, but of course the National Weather Service has tools that we don't have, and they even get faster tools. So sometimes when they issue these warnings, it takes us a minute or two to get the new processed images in to see exactly what it is that they may or may not have been seeing. But I'm hoping that we can get the reflectivity data. Here we go. So this is still at a Moorhead. I want to see exactly what it may have been that led to the warning being issued. And I think it's going to be right about in here, right? If you're the radar operator, we can kind of speculate that when you start seeing something like this on the right, where you've got those reds and those greens mixing together, and then on the left, right, you're starting to get this little appendage. And this tornado warning right now has just been allowed to expire. And so you can kind of see as we go back to real time, there's nothing left inside this polygon. So Elizabethtown, you're in the clear. Bladen County, you're in the clear. This will fall off our board here in the next moment or so. So we only have one game left in town at 9:27 here. And it's for this guy in Bertie County, northeastern North Carolina. And we'll wait to see what the National Weather Service decides to do. Some interesting, like, almost streaks here, or waves associated with this as we put the radar back into motion over the course of the last 30 or 40 minutes or so. Again, here's the moment We're a few minutes before 9 o'clock. Again, a radar operator at the Weather Service is seeing this and going ahead and putting that tornado warning together. And you can even see over the course of the next few minutes, the Weather Service did a really great job of really kind of locking in where that potential area of rotation was going to be, much in the way like a hurricane cone over the course of 5 days gets broader as it gets on out. These are much smaller scale and much shorter term, but they do the same thing. They bow out a little bit for a margin of error, but this one, again, staying inside that margin of error, as even here we're looking at broad areas of rotation. We'll wait to see what the experts decide to do at the Weather Service in the next few moments. Taking a look at correlation coefficient, taking a look to see if the hail data will load on in. Not seeing much in the way of hail that would concern me much, but we'll wait to see what exactly the National Weather Service decides to do with this one remaining tornado warning. If they were to extend it, we could speculate that it would extend out, again, kind of just playing connect the dots somewhere out this way. But we're going to find out here one way or the other momentarily on what it is they may be deciding to do. Now, again, they are working with this storm with nothing confirmed on the ground. It is in a more rural area, as they told us. That's a blessing and a curse because there's less in the way of potential damage to property or cause of inflicting injury to people. But it also gives them a few less eyeballs to work with as well, too, right? So we're still using radar data about 60 miles away from the radar, and that radar is going to get higher and higher off the ground as it gets further away from where that beam is coming out of. And so the radar is scanning the atmosphere at about 4,500 feet to 5,000 feet above the ground. And, it's the tornado on the ground that we're worried about. So, okay, National Weather Service has just gone ahead, and that has now been expired. So now at 9:30, I'm James Brierton in Charlotte, North Carolina. We no longer have any other tornado warnings or severe bulletins on the map right now. As you're taking a look here at radar, you can see all we're left with is mainly some strong areas of rain, a few thunderstorms out there, but nothing else that is severe at this time. So here's what we're going to do to try to make this as smooth as of a transition as possible. We were in the midst at the top of the 9 o'clock hour of debuting a brand new episode of our weekly podcast that is all about tracking, observing, and monitoring flash flooding, severe flooding along the coast, especially in the Charleston area. Matter of fact, some of you right now may be watching the stream and it still contains that title. Because we want to discontinue the usage of tornado warning on any of our posts right now, if you're watching on if you're watching on Facebook or you're watching on our YouTube event that is about tornado warning coverage or that flash flood episode, we're going to go ahead and stop this stream and we're going to start a new one with the correct branding for the new episode, so we don't have any confusion on whether or not there is or is not a tornado warning anymore. I don't want that lingering around. Well, where you don't have to do anything and you can just hang out and sit tight is on our Carolina Weather Net, which is our nonstop streaming channel on our YouTube page, Carolina Weather Group, where throughout the day we're just sending you real-time weather, forecast, programming, and all that jazz. You just hang tight. There's nothing you have to do. But right now, if you're watching on our standalone Facebook or YouTube events, I'm going to stop talking and look for a new episode here to premiere on those platforms momentarily, all about this flash flooding. And we want to tell you about this whole brand new website where you can help track flash flooding in your neck of the woods, especially if you're coastal. And then again, if we end up in a situation where we have any severe weather to tell you about, we'll come on the air as information warrants. So again, you can always find warnings on the Carolina Weather Net. You can learn more about that at carolinaweathergroup.com, or again, you can find it on our YouTube channel. But for now, I'm James Brierton in Charlotte, North Carolina. Thanks for joining us for this tornado warning coverage here in North Carolina. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. We do have that marginal risk out for tomorrow, so we'll be keeping an eye on the sky. And as always, stay weather aware.